It's been 1 year since the Utah Hockey Club, knew it was going to be the Utah Hockey Club. Robyn and I are going to look back, and we're also going to take a look down on the farm in Tucson, Arizona at the American Hockey League's Roadrunners on today's Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast.
You are Locked On Utah Hockey Club, your daily podcast on the Utah Hockey Club, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome in once again to the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast. I'm veteran NHL voice Tom Callahan, joined by longtime team analyst Robyn Leaño, and we bring you the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every single day. Robyn's already feeling the flow if you're watching on YouTube. It's going to be a heck of a Friday. We're going into the weekend, guns a-blazing. And Robyn, this is kind of a little bit more of a fun show for us. You know, I know there's, all the wild card stuff going on right now and everything happening on the ice, but this is looking back over our shoulder a year to see how much has changed in Utah since the craziness of this whole thing started to play out. But you have, I think, the perfect way to lead in, and that is looking at what is going on the present day and an announcement that was made this week by Ryan Smith.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll start off with that as we take a look. By the way, if I'll just go ahead and pull it up. Ryan Smith made a tweet. We talked about it earlier about Ryan Smith trying to grow hockey in Utah and his efforts on trying to make, rinks all across the place, and actually quote tweeting somebody, and he actually followed up on it and said, following up, SCG is all in on growing hockey in Utah and doing it fast. To get started, SCG will donate up to $500,000 per rink on up to 20 new rinks. We will have out-of-the-box plans for cities that can partner with entrepreneurs to build. Utah is a land of entrepreneurs, and we'll help line up anything else to make this happen. More details after the season. And then hashtag Babcock Design. And attached is a draft of, looks like 3 different concepts for rinks. The community rinks, one of a single sheet, one of a double sheet, and one of a triple sheets of ice.
I like it because that tells you that, number one, the single sheet's got some bleachers in it. That looks like it could be a standalone, like kind of a star of a rink, if you will, where some competitive games, maybe even some potential college hockey or something gets played down the road. But the other thing that you could look at too, the double sheets and even the triple sheets are great, not only for hosting tournaments, having, those types of competitive environments, but also, Robyn, this isn't just about hockey. When you have a sheet of ice, it's about figure skating. It's about learn to skate and free skate and getting people out there recreationally. You don't have to play hockey to enjoy a sheet of ice. And I think that's important to note that, there are a lot of kids who may never learn to play hockey, who will learn to skate and may spend a Saturday just tooling around the rink and, eating cotton candy with their friends.
Yeah, there's a lot about that. There's like so many different ways you can do it. Maybe there's someone who wants to learn how to freestyle ice skate. Maybe there's someone who wants to learn, as you said, figure skating. A lot of the other things. Speed skating. Maybe you're someone that wants to learn, really anything on the ice. And there's, I saw a video the other day. Who knows if we'll see this in Utah, but it was really cool, of someone playing essentially pickleball, but on the ice with ice skates. And I'm like, okay, sounds dangerous, but really fun.
It's a little wild,
I know, a little wild, but yeah, there's a lot of things you can do with it. And I think it's building the community of finding people, just having more access to ice. Yeah, sure. At the end of the day, we're trying to grow the sport of hockey, but there's other people who have other interests out there, and just having more ice available will save someone from having to travel from, let's say someone in Logan need, like, their closest hockey rink is, let's say, Ogden, but there's no time available, so they have to go down to like North Salt Lake County or whatever, and that'd be one hell of a travel day just to be able to see some ice, to see whatever's available.
The other thing it'll do too is more sheets generally brings costs down. When there's very little ice available, the cost spirals. I mean, it just goes through the roof. So this is also hopefully going to make ice time itself more affordable for those who do want ice time. And hopefully it's not only the proliferation, Tom speak, of youth hockey, but adult hockey. And as I mentioned, of those other activities that happen around those, the skating clubs and all kinds of learning opportunities. And plus, some of those rinks, and this happens even where I grew up in Western New York, they don't keep ice all year round. Robyn, in the summer, they throw some turf down. And now you've got indoor soccer, you've got indoor lacrosse, you've got other indoor sports that you could play, or you lay down a sport court and you've got roller hockey, or you've got, there's a bunch of things you can do in those facilities. And so it is not just about the winter side of sports, but it is about having more facilities, more choice, more localized choice
for kids and just for anybody to be able to play a sports. And you're right. There's a lot of that. And I know in Salt Lake City, in the Salt Lake City metropolitan area, there are at least 2 adult hockey programs that I'm aware of. For some reason, I am blanking on one of the names, but I know the other one's Utah Howl. Both of them, by the way, are like they're women's hockey teams, women and gender diverse individuals, or like LGBT friendly. It's really nice, that a place like Utah has those kind of programs for adults to be able to play the sport that they love.
Hockey is for everybody.
It is.
There's no buts. No buts in that statement. So, Robyn, 1 year ago,
plus or minus a few days, but yes.
Plus or minus a few days, a year-ish. I mean, I still think about Ryan Smith telling the story of getting a phone call essentially one day and the very next day being on a plane down to Phoenix. And then being told, hey, yeah, you can buy this team, which is crazy. And I remember when there was a great feature they did on the Jazz that talked a little bit about the acquisition of the Utah Hockey Club as well. But I remember watching that feature talking about how he just had a burning desire and a passion to support the Jazz, and Utah's home, and it means so much to him. He actually never thought the Jazz were going to be on the radar of something he'd be able to do. He looked into other NBA teams, but he is now like 100% invested in the sports scene of Salt Lake. And I think probably is the perfect steward to have that happen. And if you're going to pull it off as quickly as they did, honestly, Robyn, I give him a lot of kudos, because that was an incredibly difficult time to make that fast of a transition. And luckily they retained the front office assets, the on ice assets that helped a lot. But it's still a really difficult transition with a very short runway.
Oh, certainly. And I'm going to get to some of my extra thoughts about that exactly week, the week it all happened in just a moment. But I want to kind of point out that I remember, and I think it was around the All-Star break last year, when I think the initial rumors came. I was like, hey, there's a rumors that Salt Lake is trying to go. Salt Lake City is looking for an expansion team. And it wasn't even a rumor. I think there was legitimate interest for Salt Lake City of getting an expansion team, but someone decided to put, maybe the Arizona Coyotes can just relocate there, and everyone, all of Arizona hockey media, even Gary Bettman, everyone was like, no, that's not happening. The Arizona Coyotes are staying in Arizona. That was as early as February, and then nothing until then, the first early part of April, so close to around this time, when there were the rumors saying, oh, the NHL is putting out 2 different schedules, possibly. One with the Arizona Coyotes in Arizona at the Mullet Arena, and one with the team relocated to a yet to be named Utah team. And that put everyone out of whack. And everyone was like, that no one knew whether they could verify if that was true or not. And everything after that came at a million miles an hour.
It sure did. It sure did. So we're going to take a look back at that here as well here in just a moment. Plus, we are going to talk about Tucson and the American Hockey League, where they stand right now, the Roadrunners. We're going to take a look down on the farm. So stay tuned. We've got more coming your way. And today's episode is brought to you in part by 5 Hour Energy. Daylight savings snuck up on us yet again. And if you're feeling that lost hour of sleep, 5 Hour Energy has your back. The extra sunshine means more time for fun, but sometimes you need a little boost to power through. Whether you're staying up late to watch the NCAA tournament here, just into the Final Four now, squeezing in a round of golf after work, or just trying to keep up with your busy day, 5 Hour Energy gives you that quick, refreshing pick-me-up whenever you need it. Whenever I'm at a game or whenever I'm traveling, 5 Hour Energy, super easy to grab, keeps you feeling refreshed. I love it. Head over to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from, including watermelon, blue raspberry, and the always yummy peach mango. You can even build your own 12-pack or 24-pack and have it delivered right to your door. Need one now? Grab a 5 Hour Energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store. They're everywhere. Stock up today and stay energized. And today's show also brought to you in part by the Salt Lake Bees. The Salt Lake Bees have a brand new hive. Experience the thrill of America's favorite pastime at the ballpark at America First Square in downtown Daybreak. Opening day is Tuesday, April 8th, right around the corner. Come kick off the season with giveaways, family fun, and professional baseball in an all-new setting. This season, the Bees are bringing more than just baseball. They're bringing unforgettable experiences for every type of fan, including firework and drone nights that light up the sky all season long, bark in the park, bring your dog to 9 special games, themed events like Superman Night and Cowboy Weekend, Sunday brunch at the ballpark every Sunday home game, plus 3 Abejas nights celebrating culture and community. Single game tickets are on sale now. Visit slbs.com for tickets and the full season schedule. With wallet-friendly pricing, premium seating, and family zones, there's a seat for every fan at the ballpark at America First Square. Visit slbs.com and join the Bees this season. Tom Callahan, Robyn Leaño here with you, taking a look back at the move 1 year later, and then later we will talk about Tucson here in the show. Subscribe if you like what you're hearing. Please click that button, and we appreciate you doing so. We appreciate the everydayers tuning us in here, and Robyn, a little bit of a chance for us to get to a left turn. But you, before the break there, you had some comments that you said you wanted to kind of look back on some other things too, and you had some thoughts about just the move, the transition, how everything happened.
Yeah, and again, and I want to start with the where that initial report came out, right? And I, as much as I criticized him back then, way back then, I want to give so much credit to to where credit is due to NHL reporter Frank Saravalli for really looking this deep into finding this information, finding out that the NHL was actually looking at possibly 2 different schedules. As I said, one in Arizona, one of the teams still in Arizona, and one with the team relocated to Utah. And like I said, things went a million miles per hour after that. I didn't know how to respond at the time. I was doing the Locked On Coyote show, and I'm like, all right, do I try to report this like it's actually possible, or do I wait for more time, or what do I do?
Right.
Things are happening so fast, and I bet the Arizona Coyotes at the time made no comment. So we're like, this is suspicious. Then that's when things started to unravel even more. And I'm like, all right, we have to talk about this. We have to say what's happening. Are the Arizona Coyotes, in fact, moving to Utah? In fact, of course, they were. And I feel like, to me, Tom, at the time, I felt like it was just a slap in the face because all of us were like, no, it's not happening. That's what we were told, right? We were told, no way in hell it's happening. Arizona's committed to Arizona, and there's no way about it. And then this happens, and all this news happens. I'm not gonna lie, at that point, at the time, I feel like I think it's no secret at the time. You take a look at my at a lot of the episodes I did leading up to the actual news, to the official news that been happening. I was a little bitter about it because, again, we felt like we were lied to. But I will say this. I mean, like I said, and this is one of those situations looking back in which I'm glad I was wrong. I'm like, yeah, sure. Like, do I wish NHL hockey was still in Arizona? Absolutely. But I feel like this team is going to where, from that moment to where they are now, has really shown to me that, hey, Utah is really embracing this team. They have a fan base that loves them. They and a lot of these players are just, dang right happy working for or playing for an owner who legitimately cares. Ryan Smith legitimately cares for this team and wants to see, as we mentioned, earlier, as I showed earlier on the show, wants to see the sport grow in the community, but also just really is really invested on seeing the team grow and really have the fan base grow, the team grow, and have it be a competitive team rather than just kind of be like, yeah, I don't want to spend the money.
Robyn, as someone who was in the Coyotes organization, now several years ago, from 2016 to 2018, I can tell you that previous ownership group was pure dysfunction. It was chaos inside that organization. And when they were sold, which is when I was shown the door, because they were cutting, as a matter of fact, they ended up cutting every management job except the president. The only one in Tucson that kept his job. Every other management job was basically farmed out to Phoenix, as they cut the bottom line over the course of a year or so. And it was just chaos internally. And there were basically 5 different owners. I came in, at a time in 2016, the reason I went there and why it sounded so good to me and the appeal was there was going to be a culture change internally in that organization. And that is what I was told by the people who hired me. And I was on board. I was bought in, and I thought that was exciting. Unfortunately, that didn't happen because the people who were then trying to lead that change were they themselves run off. And so everybody else kind of brought in under that was then run off. And now the next thing you know, they're going to be sold anyway because it's still dysfunctional. Go figure. So then you go into this new ownership group. And I am way, 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 way too cynical about ownership groups in sports because I've worked for too many. The good ownership groups I've worked for are far outweighed by the awful ownership groups I've worked for. And that's just an unfortunate fact of life. And that didn't get any better. And now I'm an outside observer watching this Coyotes organization. And I just felt bad for the friends I still had there. But now, again, I'm an outside observer to yet another ownership group for the organization continuing on as the Utah Hockey Club. And you can tell there's a difference. And what I hear out of the people I know in Utah and around Utah internally reminds me a lot of the people I know internally around Seattle. I consider Seattle, just from word of mouth, a place that I would love to work. You know what I mean? As far as organizations go. And I think Utah is earning that reputation as well. And that comes top-down leadership. That is exactly how you build the culture within an organization. It has to reflect not only an organization, but a belief in your structure, in your culture. And I think that for Utah, things going to come at a better time.
Oh, absolutely. And I think the biggest thing, Tom, is, and I kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier, is it's a difference between an owner saying they care and an owner putting their money where their mouth is, right? As the previous owner, I don't think I'll even dignify the name, whatever. The previous owner, before getting sold and moved up to Utah, this team even moved up to Utah, had made out several claims saying, "Oh yeah, I want this team to win, and I want to do this," but then he did cut corners on when it came to putting money into the election to get the Tempe bid built, or even straight out just not like just trying to finesse his way out of out of like hotel costs and says, yeah, this is your bill you gave us, but this is what we're going to pay you. And just hearing a lot of things that unraveled there really put a bitter taste in my mouth versus, and again, from the tweet I showed earlier, where Ryan Smith is like, yeah, SCG is going to put $500,000 into up to 22 new rinks across the state.
Yep. And the shame of it is, I don't think Tucson's even going to keep the Roadrunners. They're building a new building. They're going to move that team as soon as the building's done.
I mean, especially because the other ownership still currently has a stake in the Tucson Roadrunners.
Yeah. Yep. And which makes me sad because I was a Tucson Roadrunner and I own a house in Tucson, and Tucson's important to me.
I mean, I spent 7 years of my life there. I started my career covering the Tucson Roadrunners. That's, again, how Tom and I met. My first year covering the Roadrunners for SB Nation is how I just introduced myself to Tom.
That was a lifetime ago.
That was
9 years ago.
That was 9 years ago.
I know. It's crazy to think. Here we are. Almost a decade later doing this show, and almost 1 year later talking about the move of the Arizona Coyotes up to Salt Lake City from the desert to the mountains, and I don't think it could have worked out any better. We do need to talk about AHL Tucson. What's going on with the Roadrunners? Where are they? Are they in the playoffs? Out of the playoffs? How are things looking right now? Robyn and I will do that right after this.
And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. March Madness is here. Hey, Final Four coming your way. And FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. I mean, hey, you take a look at where it is going in the Final Four right now, all chalked up to really the number one seeds. And hey, maybe you can pick who you want. Are you in on all that Cooper love coming from Duke, or do you want somebody else? Who knows? Go ahead and let us, maybe let us know. See if you pick whoever your favorites might be. But FanDuel's the way to do it. Make your bets. It's a lot easier than working on finding the perfect bracket. Honestly, I love my brackets, but hey, that's always a really difficult thing to go down. So go ahead and check it out on FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com and get in on all the college hoop action all tournament long.
Tom Callahan, Robyn Leaño here with you in the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast. Thanks for subscribing and joining us every single day. Every dayers for a long time, Robyn. The ones who know you from way back in the day know that you have spent a good bulk of your time in Tucson. I've spent a bulk of my time in Tucson as well, covering this particular organization. So I think the Roadrunners hold a place for both of us near and dear in our hearts. And we want to see them do well for the community, but for themselves as well. And Potsy's coaching down there, and he's one of my favorite human beings in the entire world. I always wish him the best because, look, hockey's full of good people. He's one of the best. So, Steve, hope everything's well down there.
It's funny, though. I'll even say it as a quick memory. I remember anytime Van Ryn didn't want to speak, they just sent Potsy on our way to talk to us.
Yep. And he would. I mean, difficult situation. You know the guys who will talk, and that was the deal I had with Mike Van Ryn, and I was the one doing the interviews. But we would do them, and then on certain days, and I told him, I said, look, I know you don't like doing them, and I know there's days you just can't. So I said, on the days you can't, you just look at me and say, Tom, I can't, and I will go talk to Potsy, and that's what I would do. And that's kind of how it worked out. So you know what, it's a learning environment in the American Hockey League, and that is really its major raison d'etre, if you will, to try to give players the experience of playoff runs, to try to give players the experience of highly competitive environment. I think it's the second best hockey league in the world. I love watching the AHL. I love watching the games. I always have.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's a blast. And so in the Roadrunners are in the Pacific Division, which was created, very brief history lesson for you, was created several years ago by Western NHL owners who basically said, we're going to go out and form our own little 8-team league. And the AHL said, no, you can't do that. You need to play in our league. And they said, well, we're not going to play 76 games like everybody else. League said, yes, you are. They said, no, we want to play less, travel less. We're going to play in the West. We're going to form our own league. So that was the way they bargained it into playing fewer games. At the time, I think it was 68.
68.
Yeah,
Yep.
68 they played. And, they reduced their travel costs by mostly playing out West. And you rarely see Pacific Division teams cross over. They do cross with the Central. You almost never see the North or the Atlantic.
I mean, for a while you would, but now the Pacific Division is so big, it's literally all just Pacific Division against Pacific Division mostly.
It is. There's 10 teams in the Pacific.
I mean, I remember beforehand when it was a lot smaller. And again, we still want to get to it later, and I'm sure you remember this. Like, how many times would the Tucson Roadrunners play the Iowa Wild? Felt like it was like 10 times plus a season. It was insane.
All I can see of Des Moines is just freezing cold, snow, snow blind, wind, cold. That's my entire impression of Des Moines, Iowa. I'm sure they have other weather, but not for me. But you're right. So it's nice to have even the variety, although I never minded going to San Diego. Love that. So
the I-8 border battle.
Yes. So Tucson, Robyn, 7 teams make it in the playoffs in the Pacific out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Tucson's battling Bakersfield down the stretch here for that 7th and final spot. The good news is that if you look at the Roadrunner schedule, they have 3 games left against Baco. They have a chance to control their own destiny as far as can they get into the playoffs.
Yeah. The major issue, and it's nice that they do control their own destiny in that case, but the issue that I have, and it's an issue that kind of dates back to the last several years, I just feel like Tucson, it's that Bakersfield has always been a thorn in the side of Tucson. They just for some reason just cannot, Tucson cannot shake them off, just cannot get past them. Even on years where Tucson's by far and away the better team, Bakersfield might be the worst team in the Pacific Division, and Tucson might be a top 3 team in the Pacific Division, but still they'll lose. And I'm like, what is happening? That's the major concern I have. And I'm like, can Tucson do it? Can they overcome the issues they have with Bakersfield and really secure a spot in the Calder Cup playoffs here?
Well, and they have those games at home Saturday, Sunday this weekend. Big set. Big set. So, yeah, I mean, you win both of those, you go a very long way towards putting yourself into the postseason. So hopefully they're able to do that. And as we take a look at some of the names in Tucson, there's actually a decent amount of prospects down there. And we know Yamamoto's been recalled to the big club, but leads the team in scoring, point a game pace, 51 games, 51 points. Igor Sokolov, 64 games, 42 points is the next highest scorer. And that's kind of one of the interesting things I find about this Roadrunners team. Sokolov and Hebig, both over the 20-goal mark, and Yamamoto and Agazino are knocking on the door. But there's not a ton of offense in Tucson. Mm-hmm. There's really not. So they have to win games defensively. They have to win games with goaltending. And it's been a little bit of a struggle for them.
Yeah, they absolutely has, and it's interesting too that you mentioned that they have to do focus on a lot of defense, and to me, my hope was going into the season that Tucson would be a very strong defensive team, and now Juuso Välimäki is down there, which shows it even more. But I'm like, hey, they got veterans like Robbie Russo and Kevin Connaughton on their team. Why, they should be better. Maverick Lamoureux is no slouch of a defenseman coming in from his first season in pros. Max Zuber, should have there. I think even Montani Underbuch, I think he came back, which I found out was from a suspension for abuse on the officials earlier this month or last month, I should say at this point, but.
And that can be anything. That can be something like trying to get through a linesman to get to a player. That can be verbal. There's a lot of different reasons for that to happen. And so I don't know what the reason for that happening was. Also, don't forget, though, because Välimäki's been hurt, he's only played 1 game for Tucson. So that's, not
that could play a factor.
Yeah, that's not the best news for them. But, it's interesting, too, taking a look at some of these guys. The potential for reinforcements, I think, is something we need to talk about here. And Robyn, we talked about it earlier this week on another show, but if players have been on the Tucson roster, if they've been there at some point this year, they can be sent back down for a potential Calder Cup playoff run. So there is the potential, and guys that we know that can have that happen. Josh Doan is one of them. Yamamoto would be another one if he were to go back down. And of course, you wonder if Lammer is going to, be healthy, and if Valimaki is going to be healthy. All these different players, but these are guys who now, to your point, not really sure who else, but it'll probably be Stauber and Villalta, the goaltending tandem, for that run, provided with that Utah. I mean, I don't know what they would do, honestly, if Utah thinks it's still got a chance towards the end. If things fall crazy for UHC and they're still kind of have a sniff at the end, might throw a little wrench in the works. But, you could load a little bit to the Roadrunners here to try to make a playoff run.
And I would certainly see there would be a possibility there. And I mean, and we'd like to see a decent playoff run. I mean, last year, their playoff run was cut short, as I mentioned earlier this week, thanks to just a absolutely insane Dustin Wolf. Tucson Roadrunners could not solve Dustin Wolf. But there was a lot of hope going into that. I think, in addition to, speaking of the whole 1 year thing, I think everyone was wondering if Tucson was going to stay in Tucson at the time, or if they were also going to have their last game in those moments. But I mentioned it to you off the air, Tom, as kind of, as kind of a joke, but it is kind of a real thing. Yeah, Tucson's had a couple good seasons, but they haven't had a truly promising push since what we'll call the Tom Callahan era. Since you were there.
That's right.
That was, if anyone remembers who are long timers here, who have been following me ever since my days in SB Nation, will know that it's that year was the year that they won the first round, but they couldn't win. They couldn't win in the Pacific Division Finals to the Texas Stars.
Those dang Texas Stars. Yeah, they thwarted that run. That was. Boy, they had a hard time with that. Aiden Hill was the goaltender back then for the Roadrunners.
That was the year where their top line was all first round draft picks.
Mm-hmm.
Dylan Strome, Nick Merkley, and Lawson Krause.
Yep, and there was a lot of talent.
That was a deeply stacked team.
A lot of guys who were on that team are in the NHL now. They're not necessarily all with the Roadrunners, with the Utah Hockey Club. There are other places, like your Michael Buntings and, guys like that they just, Connor Garland was there. They go and they find homes in other places. But, man, there was a lot of talent on that Roadrunners hockey team. There really was.
There really was. And I feel like I haven't seen anything again, there have been some promising moments, but nothing like that to that caliber. And I'm not saying that, I want to see some hope this year. I don't expect there to see anything close to that this year, but I want to see them make a push, right? I want to see them make an effort as much as they can. Because if my philosophy, Tom, has always been like, hey, you know what? If your NHL team isn't going to make a push, I want to see the AHL team work 5 times as hard.
Yeah, you really do. You want to know that there's something there as a foundation that's been built. And that is so important for the Utah Hockey Club to see the farm do well. And, hopefully, if they get past that little oddball series of the AHL playoffs are very convoluted. Just if you look into it, just know that it's going to be confusing.
Now, back in the day.
Oh, my goodness. But so if they can get out of that little play-in situation and get into a legitimate round, you hope they can do some damage, but offense is going to come at a premium. That's going to be their problem, is scoring goals.
It really will be. And like I said, I want to see it from them. If they do in fact get that extra help from Utah, which I think that at some point we'll see it happen. Like we'll see probably, it probably is going to happen immediately after the last game. Like whoever was called up and who is eligible to get sent down, you'll see a whole list. These players, and it's like have been reassigned to the Tucson Roadrunners.
Be fun to go see Josh Stone light it up.
I mean, I'm only a 2-hour drive away, so why not?
There you go. Absolutely. So we absolutely hope for the best for the Tucson Roadrunners. And so, Robyn, it's going to be an interesting run down the stretch here. And you know what? Maybe you will have to make the trip down I-10 for some Calder Cup playoff action.
Oh, absolutely. I'll just have to, brush back in, stepping into a press box. I feel like it's been a minute since I stepped into a press box. As someone that covers the Utah team from still here in Arizona, question mark a little bit going into the future, but like, I do what I can to cover. I think we all do it. We all do what we can to give you guys the best content out there. But I would love to brush back off that, the press box wear and get back in there in Tucson.
Absolutely. That I was there when they were building that press box, man. That unto itself is an entire story.
They've changed it now. By the way, where like I don't even get a press box seat. It's now because that's now all I now get pushed to overflow, but that's a whole other thing.
Well, at least they have overflow now. They never actually used to. So, all right. Well, we're going to push into the weekend. That's what we're going to do. So thanks for joining us here, everybody. We appreciate you being a part of things, and we look forward to catching back up with you again. The homestand continues next week for the Utah Hockey Club, and Robyn and I will be back talking about more Locked On Utah Hockey Club. So for Robyn, I'm Tom. Thanks for joining us on the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast.